back. Today I'm talking about Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, Kubo and the Two Strings is an animated film from America. The director of it started a studio up and eventually started making films. He also made Bumblebee, the one good Transformer film. Like he made Bumblebee after this film because this film was so good. Even though it didn't do great, it was obviously was talent, so they actually just gave him a chance in live action, and he actually delivered something good. But you can see the talent here, the talent there, and a lot of the films in like Coraline and things like that came from the studio all showed real skill. It's just like a lot of stop motion films. They come back into stop motion. The Box Trolls another one. And it's just like this sense of an anime studio doing pretty good stuff. So this is stop motion with some CGI involved as well. It's set in Japan, ancient Japan, and basically it's about a boy whose mother is on the run from her father and sister. And the sisters are actually twins, and they're identical, and they're both played by Rudy Mara, and it's a very good. And Ray Fiennes plays the villain, the voice of the villain. So they've interesting voices. Charlize Theron and Matthew McConaughey play characters supporting the lead boy as well. You know, as he has to go on the run, because at a certain point the sisters find out where he is, and they attack his mother, and he has to go on the run, and it's mostly indicated that his mother's died. He doesn't know what's happened to his father. His father was supposedly died years ago, so he's on the run now, not sure where he's going to go, how he's going to escape, because his grandfather is the king of the moon, and so he's a lot of power at night. So his mother's protecting him a lot at night and hiding him from his grandfather. So, but during the day, he tells these stories to these people, and he gets money for it because he tells stories to tourists all about the king of the moon and things like that. And he's very good at making performances out of it. So ultimately, that's how he makes money for him and his mother to survive on during the day. But at night, he has to make sure he's back before nightfall to the caves that they're living at to avoid the king of the moon. So there's a wonderful sense of like an old culture, but it's also storytelling. It's done in stop motion, and the characterization and the style of it is very clear, but simple. It's influenced by like fairy tales and like old like Universal horror movies. But there's more colour. But is that what James Whale brought to like the Frankenstein movies is simple shapes that tell you where you are at every opportunity. And when you go into something like a forest, the contrast between simple shapes of where you were to something like a forest creates a different feel to the story, so it helps create character and create emotion. It's that kind of that kind of using your space really well that this film does wonderfully throughout. You always know where you are. You always know exactly where you are in any location and what the physicality of it is, so the action always seems to work really well because everything's always established via careful design of the shapes of the locations, careful placement of the characters and locations, careful placement of what the powers are at each moment, so you always kind of know where you are. And that really works. But also works as the characters. You have a boy who doesn't know who his family is, but he knows he's important and he's trying to make sense of the world. So he has a monkey protecting him. This monkey that came from this like statue of a monkey that suddenly comes alive but has a limited time to protect him. And you have to go and find these objects that in a story were used by his father to fight the King of the Moon. And have to find these objects that belong to his father to try and give him some protection, whether it's a sword or it's armour, things like that he needs to find to actually be able to defend himself against the King of the Moon and his aunts. They run into this guy who can't remember where he came from, who's a warrior. He's lost all his friends, and he's basically hiding in a cave. And he helps him get a sword. And at that point, against this dragon thing, so at that point he comes along with him too. Now there are some obvious things I've suggested here that you can probably figure out certain things already. What's good with this film is you're meant to figure them out. It's like the boy hasn't figured out certain things, but the film is not doing. It's not bending over backwards to try and hide its twists and turns. You're meant to suspect certain things that turn out to be true because the story's about him figuring them out, not you figuring them out. Really. So I'm not going to say what the twists are, but it's not about holding back twists. It's about the character realising certain things that the audience probably has figured out already. And it's about the character going through an experience and learning how to survive on his own and learning how to deal with his problems and his family's problems and the history of his family and why they're so doomed and all of that. And it becomes a story about like Japanese history and Japanese folk tales and how people can lose their way. I mean, it's nothing new, right? There's nothing new in this film you haven't seen before. But the fact that they set it in Japan and do it that way using Japanese ideas of monsters and things make it interesting. The fact that they actually make it work by having these actors tone it down. Like McConaughey plays one of the sidekicks, but he's not playing it as the typical Matthew McConaughey thing. Charlize Theron is playing a grumpy monkey. It's different from what you'd expect from her. And Fiennes is playing the villain, but the villain has some other qualities to him. But the only characters who are full on like caricatures are the sisters, probably really married. They're meant to be. They're meant to be people who are unthinking, who have not thought of their problems. So that's part of the point. So everything that is in there, that even if things you spot certain things, they're not going to try to hold twists over you. They're not trying to make you think, oh my god, I should have spotted that. That's a mistake. You know, it's like you're meant to have spotted some of this stuff. It's so obvious you're meant to spot it, and it's an adventure story about a boy figuring things out through this fantastical landscape, and it's wonderfully done. The design is wonderful. The characters are very clear. They're not trying to be Pixar characters. They're not trying to be like a smart ass, like Shrek type thing either. They're just genuine characters in this situation, in this sort of dark fantasy world that's also an adventure. That's meant to be easy to show to your kids because it's scary enough to get them interested and back away a little bit, but not scary enough to really damage them. It's for kids, but it's a kids film that you can watch as a grown up because it's well told. Everything's set up properly. There's nothing important's been missed out. It's like if something hasn't been explained somewhere, it'll get explained later. Like you will find out all the important things, and the things you don't get explained aren't that important, you know. But it doesn't stop to explain everything in horrific detail either. It's part of the story, and you get what you need to get from the film. It's one of those ones, you know, you wish animated films were this ambitious and this clear. I mean, a film I would suggest is similar to is Up, you know, or Soul, which are another two films I think where they were adventure stories with undertones that were interesting. So you had adventure stuff, but you also had interest in other things. So it was always clear of what was going on. And you always had clarity of character. They weren't trying too hard with any characters. Everything was clear, and you had a point to everything. It's that kind of film. So I don't want to ramble on anymore. Kubo is the Two Strings is definitely worth seeing. It's a wonderful children's film. It's definitely worth seeing. If you want to show it to kids, somebody show it to kids, this is a really good one to show to kids because it's clear, it's well told, it's not too long, it knows how long the film should be and does not try to outstay its welcome. The pacing's good, and it's a world that isn't usually done much in, you know, in American animation. So I'd highly recommend it. Go see it. Bye for now.